Okay, today I'm just gonna, crap. I just grabbed a little finial I had at the house, and basically what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna just take you through the procedures of making a bowl, the lid, and attach the finial. So I've already got the part of it done, and I've already went ahead and roughed these pieces out because they were, had some splitting going on, so I had to get away from it. So I figured you guys know how to round one out. So I went ahead and took care of that step. One thing you want to make sure you do, if you're grabbing a tenon, make yourself a little jig. It's just a handy little thing to have laying next to your thing. I try to make it so when it's on there, it's basically, that's about, you know, I want the jaws to be able to get closed as tight as I can get the jaws closed. You get a more even pressure on the piece. So there is the little jig, and I mean, you have absolutely nothing in this fabulous little tool. So you can repeatability of getting your tenons down where you need them. So with that said, I did turn them out, started between centers, and I left the, I like leaving the little center tab on there. So whenever I go back to reverse it, to take the foot off, I've got the center left on there on the bottom of it, so I can help center it up, because I'll be turning the bowl out. This will be the hollowed out part. So whenever I reverse it, this will be going up against the chuck, and this is going to be getting trimmed off and prettied up or whatever, and this will just help me get it centered. So what I look at is I try to look at the profile. I've got, 3 inches or so, and I'm going to try to maybe do a little bit of a winged bowl, and then this is going to be sitting down in it, like that. So I'm going to have to shorten this up some, and then I'll put the profile on it. And I know there's several different ways of doing this, but I'm going to start with the lid, and we'll go from there.
What's the wood?
This is maple. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit, start knocking it around. Okay, the hogging part, basically with that thing, you'll have a lot of tear out. So now all we're gonna do is just try to smooth it out, and then I'll put a hole in it for the finial. I guess if you wanted to, you could take your, if if you was doing a big hole or a little hole, it doesn't really matter. But you could set your scribe. Okay, when you're doing the scribe, one point, say you're going to catch it with your right hand point because it's spinning towards you. The other one is just as a guide whenever you're doing it. So make sure that when you're using something like this, don't let both points catch, or you're screwed. Mainly you use that technique more for bigger objects. Okay, then whenever you put it on there, you can see where the outside of the piece is going to be for the your lid. Okay, so basically you look at it and see, try to give yourself a little contour, whatever kind of contour you want on it, without getting into this right here. So there's a million, like I said, there's a million different ways of doing these. And actually it's a little bit too tall, but I'm going to just leave it that way. And basically it's whatever kind of shape that fits your fancy. Yeah, looks ugly, but it's just for demonstrations. That's the beauty about turning on a lathe. If you turn something and it just doesn't suit your fancy, then you can go out in the wood pile and get another piece of wood. Okay, so we'll say that's getting close. I would go and grab my sharp tool now, and I would just basically give a finish cut. So my sanding doesn't have to take all day. Okay, get some carrot. What you don't want to do is this edge, if you ever have a habit of putting your hand down there stopping it, and you just put an edge on there, don't touch it. It will slice you wide open. So we'll just call that good as far as this part of it. So basically, we're just going to have some kind of ugly little lid with a little finial fitting on top. And then we'll come back and get this later, the bottom part of it. I'm used to a Powermatic. I'm used to the bigger lathe. And my tool, my tailstock. Okay, so we got the foot, we got our jaw or our tendon on there we're going to use. And I put it back between centers because I like roughing it out from this way to the top, and then we reverse it and you know. Okay, thing you do on like a bowl is just anything that looks pleasing. You know, you want to do what's pleasing to you. If you want a round bowl, an OG bowl, you know, whatever it is, just do the form that best suits you. And the shape right there looks all right. Now I'm just going to do a finish cut.
Start that at the bottom and go to the top.
I do a lot of times, depending on how the grain direction is. A lot of times you get, depending on how, most of the time I do go from the bottom and go to the top. Depending on how the orientation of the grain. That didn't have much tear out. I can take one going down.
I don't know if you've already put the goes in the water before I have.
Yeah. So right there, as far as a finish cut, this rim right here, I'll hit it again whenever I reverse it around. But yeah, that ought to work. Got a little bit of tear out right there. Now, as far as the finish cut, that right there, that's what you want to, you don't want to have to be sanding all day long. There, right, there's no tear out. I wouldn't have to sand that long, but I do have one little blemish right there, but we'll just cover, that'll be good. Okay, so we'll say we got our fancy, real fancy snazzy lid here. And you got to figure out, you know, how you was wanting the lid to fit and everything. I wanted mine recessed in. And granted, this is just we ain't trying to make nothing beautiful right here. We're just showing you the gist of how you do it. But I want mine to recess in a little bit. So I'll take my calipers if they go up big enough. And I set them smaller than what I need so I can creep up on the hole.
Controlled early. No, I know what yours. I know they did.
Okay. I'm going to try something here just to see if it'll work. Okay, so I got both my pieces together, and if you want to try to make everything flow together, then now would be the time to do that. So I'm going to just play around with it a little bit and change the profile a little bit.
you angle them in a particular way, or?
Well, I just put them in straight. You know, this wood is, if you want to get a belt like a real good tight fit, you would bevel one piece and then the opposite bevel another, and then sink them together, and then you can do that. I didn't have much of a bevel on these. It's pretty well straight in cut. Basically just playing. Oh, that's hard like that. You try to keep a, you know, when there are a lot of times whenever I'm home and I'm doing a big inside bowl cut, I always try to get myself positioned so I could, you know, do the swing and everything. And that's what you want to do. You want to be able to do a final cut to where it eliminates your sanding. Doesn't eliminate it, but it helps cut down on it. Okay, with this stuff being like it's a little spalty. Crap, cut down too deep. Anyway, here we go again. I cut too deep and got my inset, my little ridge I had, so it's been down in the hole. Okay, so we basically have got our top. Any questions so far? Great. keep on reaching that on off switch here. Well, okay, we'll say that's the done part there. And we would have done our sanding and everything like that. Then we're going to reverse it. So basically to reverse it, to make this foot disappear, because that's, to me, to be at that upper level, we always strive to get to, because I've always seen the professionals do it. You never know how they held it. How did they hold this piece? And that's what I always strive for, is to make it to where you can't, there's no footprint left of how that piece was held. So we'll just reverse it. If this piece is done, if you've already sanded this piece and you've got it pristine and you've got it right where you want it, when you put this around here on this, I use this is a yoga mat. It's a little pad coming off the yoga mat. I got them at a yard sale for like $1 a piece. But you would put something in there to protect the finish, so you don't have a ring on your piece when you get through, because that's the worst thing you would have, because at that point there's hardly no way to get that ring out of there. So you put a little padding in there, and this is why I left the little center right here. This pad might be too big and thick for that. Ha. Look at there. I'll tell you. Woo. For those of you that don't turn very many bowls, that's the easiest I've ever had one go back to center. And I think a lot of it is due to I leave that tail on there. Okay, so now we got to figure out, do we want to leave the tenon in it, or we want to take the tenon off? You know, that's when you're looking at that, that's what you got to figure out. Most likely, you know, because I always leave a shoulder on there, but I could always go back and take this fat part right here, I can take it off and slope it into that foot. Is it going to be too tall for a little foot? You know, that's the things you're going to look at. You want to look at, is your object going to be too tall, too awkward for a smaller foot? Sometimes you want to put a bigger foot on it. So we're just going to leave this, we're going to take the tenon totally off. Now's when we're going to test this thing out. So those in the front row, be prepared. Okay, now on any foot that you put on there, you'll want to concave the bottom, because it's going to warp. If it's green, if it came out of a tree, it's going to warp on you. So if you concave the bottom and leave just a little foot out here, then it's gonna take away some of that rocking effect. Not much, but it will take it away from it. So I'm just giving a little bit of concave. And at this point right here, if you've done a hollow vessel or a bowl that you're not sure of, it would have been a good thing to measure the depth of your bowl so you know if you're going to make a funnel out of it. Because at this point here is where you're going to make a funnel out of whatever you just made. So you would want it to measure the depth inside, and that way you don't cut it out. But you can see I've got a little bit of a concave dish underneath. Again, you want to make a good finish cut so you don't have to do a lot of sanding. You want to look for tear out, any kind of little tear out, which for this punky wood, that's looking real good, well, in my opinion. But so we're just going to work this down. Now, for those that are familiar with a bevel on a thing, the bevel that I'm riding is on the point right here. I can pick this cut back up by just putting the bevel, just put the bevel against it right there, and you're able to pick the cut back up. Now if you come in and see how the piece is hitting my hand, it's not on the bevel, you're going to make a gout. So you would put that bevel flat against there, and you can pick that cut right back up and continue going down through it. See, I'm flat against it. I'm not cutting. I'm pushing it in, and I'm hitting high spot. Now, specialty wise tools, I've got a bolt. This is a spindle gouge here, maybe a little bit of it might be a bolt gouge. It's got a deep flute. But if you see the point on that thing is severely pointed. And what I use that for is I'll come in here and I'll start working this down. Well, keep from scaring anybody, I'll just stop right there. But then you can take this thing and if I was at home, I would probably cut it back. What you don't want to do is at that point just snap it off, because a lot of times it might have tear out, but I'll do it anyway just to see if it does. Not too bad. But that would be the little nubbin there. As you see, it's got a foot. It doesn't show your jaws. We'll put this fancy little lid on top of it. Oh, look at that, a beautiful bowl. Now this here, you would glue that into there. But like I said, for demonstration purposes, I had this laying around, thought I'd use it. But that's the gist of it. You would do a lot of sanding as you go. I would make sure that this right here, the transition place, is about the same, you know, I would want the same height. And the edges I would have sanded off, but that basically is the lidded bowl.
Very good.
Any questions?
Thank you, that was good.